Hey guys, how's it going? So this is something different. This is just a little bit of terrain I worked on there recently before Christmas for something I was hoping to do with the family at Christmas to introduce some of them to D&D. And so my brothers know how to play, basically. I'm pretty sure we've played a good few times before. And they're kind of into it, when I go home, sometimes we get a game in. But I was trying to introduce even my sister or one of my parents into it just to see what how they take it. And it's going to be very simple, but this is kind of based on a room that Hank from Runehammer did a video on one of his three options for three ways to start your campaign with an encounter, something like that. It's one of his older videos now. I have it favorited years, and I go back to it, and it's pretty simple enough. But his version of it is a lot bigger of the original room, so I might actually work on that. But this is what I kind of did pretty quickly now, honestly, using a lot of the techniques you'll see on YouTube to make terrain. Yeah, if you have the materials, guys, you can really throw it together quickly. I've always kind of been put off because I've thought that, it would cost a lot of money for paints or take a lot of time, a lot of space. So there is a little bit of things like that. You will have to put money into it for paint and materials and that kind of thing. But it's on the cheaper end of stuff. You don't need the good stuff for terrain, guys. But anyway, so this little scenario here is basically based on the one that Hank was talking about in his video, and you have people in their they're captured, right? So originally there was two cages, but I made one cage and realized, okay, that actually took a bit of time. It was coming up to Christmas, so I was like, okay, I don't have time to make another one. But that was you got the barbarian in here. I found my barbarian, my super guy. Yeah, it's just this foam stuff, X foam or Foam X, sorry, is the name of it that I've been telling you about. This is great material. It's like really hard, really, really dense foam board. And this stuff is great. Like it's actually pretty substantial. You can get it in different thicknesses, but I have scraps of it from work. Um, so this is like not too hard to put together. So this is just the Foam X. Same with the bottom. These were cut offs of something from work again, and these are just toothpicks. So it's pretty crude, it's a bit wonky, but I think it suits the purpose. Now I didn't put a lid on it, put a top on it because I thought it'd be easier to play with a guy in it, or do you know what I mean? Instead of having to have a lid on it. Or I was going to try make the door open, but I said, look, it's not actually worth it. It's not necessary. And it's just metal, painted up metal and kind of sponged to paint a lot faster, which honestly is, I think, the key to paint up terrain quickly. Spray it black. Maybe the lights I have set up here are kind of fecking up the colors a bit, but yeah, it's just kind of stained metal, bit of bronze through a bit of black, just to add a bit of interest to it. But that's that. And then originally there was meant to be two cages, and the people have to get out of it, figure out how to get out before certain things happen. Now I don't want to go through too much because I didn't get to run it in the end, so I don't want to spoil it if any of the people that I was going to play with are actually watching. But anyway, so the little simple things again, stalagmites are tights. Tights come down. Okay, so these are mites, they go up. So it's stalagmites, exactly. Yeah, and the base is same again, the Foamex stuff. It's very very easy to cut as well, and this is just PVA and tissue paper hardened, and then I think I had some little bits of hot glue every so often. But like it works. It's very very simple, and it's just kind of more so to block off places or to add a bit of interest to the side of the board, because like no one's potentially going to go over there. You know what I mean? I mean, you could maybe potentially loot it or different things. Like if in the scenario the prisoners are basically naked, they're in loincloths and kind of this kind of thing, so they have to really improvise. So that's what I really wanted to get into. I wanted the people to have get the basic rules down between attacking and actions and what you can do and initiative and this kind of thing, and to search things. So potentially, like if you were fighting these skeletons, they might figure out, oh, my the sword that I found isn't doing too well for whatever reason because they're made of bone. Like that axe didn't slow him down too much there. You know what I mean? I love this guy. This guy's so silly. I think he's from Mantic Games, but I love that pose. I've never seen that before. And so they could potentially loot a rock, and smash their head in with a rock. Like, I mean, you'd come up with rules from it on the fly, especially when you're introducing people to the game. They come up with things that you've not really thought of. You know what I mean? It's not as standard, especially people. that I don't really play video games much, because video games will kind of guide you towards, okay, you need a weapon, you need this and that, kind of that RPG mindset, which makes sense because it's all kind of based on the same thing, D&D, between stats and that kind of thing. But if you come from, like, my parents wouldn't play video games, so they'd be a lot more practical about it, or see what's around. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully I'll get to do it eventually, because I think it'll be great. And what else do I got? So basically, the idea was, in this little set I had here, you got the sorceress, you got her minions here, you got the barbarian, got knocked out or something, and he's in the cage, and you got his party members coming to get him. The nice ginger dwarf, which I think was from Mantic Games again, that I've had a while that I painted up. He's a bit of, if I can get a decent shot of him, yeah, very shiny. I think that's the wash. But hey, I mean, I like him. A dwarf with a sword as well. Usually they go for the axe or the hammer for whatever reason. And I think this is a druid from Reaper. So not many colors in her really, but I like the pose. She's pretty cool, and the different type of base. I think that's more of a War Machine Hordes base, but I'm not really gone on these. I think they look cool for display models in a way, because there's a little bit extra to it. But when it comes to gaming, I think they're a bit wide. What else do we got here? Yeah, so you got some more little interest for the side of the board there. Same thing again, and these little crates were made just from cardboard and X-foam again. So you can texture the X-foam as well. So if that'll focus for me. Yeah, so just that little bit of wood texture. Now, this isn't anything unbelievable, guys. You're going to see a lot better than this. But it just adds that little bit extra to it. And that's just super glued together. And a bit of cardboard to create the bindings. Now, this wasn't based on even any reference pictures. I just went ahead and did it because I said, look, you got all these guys on YouTube, great guys on YouTube doing terrain. And I said, I might just give it a go and see what happens, because I've got tons of this stuff. I've got so many cut-offs, so it's no problem. So they're going in to save him. This thing is a big torture rack. I don't know, it doesn't make sense. I didn't go into too much research about it, but you look at some pictures. Those ones that I think there was a scene in Muppet Treasure Island where Gonzo gets pulled by his arms, and his arms get all really long. I remember that from when I watched that as a kid. But yeah, so you have the rack and you pull them along. So potentially, if they're really stuck for weapons, right? Let's just say, I think in the scenario, there'd be two people, so there'd be another cage here, but let's just say she's tied up to this stalagmite and it goes up like this to a pillar. And then the dwarf is in the cage as well. If these two huge guys, these two beefy guys will fit in this little cage, they're there. And then you've got, I think it was a ghoul in the original scenario, and they're doing something, and then the people wake up and they have very little AC, they have no weapons, they're locked in a cage, they're tied up, they have to figure out how to get out, working together, get past this ghoul and escape. So I think it would be a lot of fun to see how my parents would get on with, for one, the mechanics, and for two, just the idea of putting himself in this mindset of that they're this character. I had little stats and everything made out, guys. I really wish I got to do it, but I didn't. I couldn't find my stuff. I couldn't find my books, and I couldn't find my dice, and it was a pity anyway. But in this scenario, the one I just came up with, it's a rescue mission for the barbarian because he's got himself trapped again. He got loads of skeletons, but they won't be too much trouble. So they're afraid that the barbarian friend is going to get tortured here, so they better go in and save him. She might be casting some kind of earth magic, because this is actually on a big raised area, so they could knock off the skeletons, or these guys are actually equipped, so it's not too bad, and defeat one or two skeletons. Maybe some casting some spells, and he gets up there, and then the barbarian finally knocks with his brute strength, knocks out down the cage, and they start kind of laying into the sorcerer. She runs away, and then she pulls out one of her bigger spells. She catches the very flammable druid back here out of unawares and drops a big, I don't even know what spell this would be, but this was my entry to the Christmas ornament competition run by the Craft Skills guys. Just this big swirling, engulfing flame. It actually wasn't very hard to do now, honestly. You probably figured out it's just hot glue and then tissue and then kind of swirling fire effect. But I thought it was kind of interesting. It's kind of like similar to when you see people making custom gelatinous cubes where you can actually pop them on top of the mini. But it was something like that. I thought it was like a really cool, maybe movable area of effect spell. But yeah, and she takes her out, and then the maybe the barbarian. This is completely off the cuff. The barbarian runs into her and like really gets his revenge and lifts her up with one huge arm and punches her straight off the edge of the big pillar here, and the spell disintegrates, and he finally bashes him into the ground and gets up, and then they're like, "Oh, thank God, we made it through our adventure." But then the big worm comes up. So achievement. Now I'm just playing with them like toys. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This is a little bit of terrain. I might try a bit more. It is a lot of fun, honestly. It adds a lot to it because you can make all the minis you want, but if you're not either playing or making terrain or whatever, I don't know what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? It really sets it together. If you're gonna have painted minis and everything, custom minis, I may as well make terrain as well. But thanks for watching, guys. Keep up all the work. Keep up all the good work out there, guys, in the community and all that. Those new guys I was talking about last video, keep it up, guys. Love your stuff. And yeah, talk to you in the next one. Thanks.